Welcome, good morning, and welcome to Redeemer Lutheran Church in Columbia, South Carolina, where we're part of the ELCA. I'm Pastor Gary Lodeholt. There's a small story in Genesis 23 that means a lot more than it seems at first. Abraham has come into the land that God promised to him and his descendants, and he has lived on the land for quite a number of years. When Sarah reached the age of 127, she died. And Abraham met with the local people in order to purchase a piece of land with a cave in which to bury Sarah. He had noted a field owned by a Canaanite named Ephron, and he met in the public square with Ephron so that their dealings would be public. He offered to buy the parcel of land if only Ephron would name the price. Ephron made a show of giving Abraham the field, trying to demonstrate his magnanimity. But Abraham knew that it was just a gesture and asked the price. Ephron answered, "What is 400 shekels between you and me?" Well, actually, that was a lot. In fact, some scholars have estimated that the purchasing power of 400 shekels could be as high as $600,000 today. Nevertheless, Abraham weighed out the money and purchased the field to be Sarah's burial place. It's important. This burial site is actually the first place in the Promised Land that Abraham actually owns. Later on, his two combative sons, Isaac and Ishmael, come together to bury Abraham here too. And even later than that, this place becomes the site known as Hebron. This week and next week, we are focusing our attention on what I'm calling sacred geography, places in the Bible where the location has an important role in the stories of what happened there. We will explore how where it happened adds to the meaning and importance of what happened. Today we want to visit one of the oldest continuously inhabited cities in the world, Hebron. Actually, the story of buying Sarah's burial plot isn't the first time in the Bible that Hebron is mentioned. 10 chapters earlier, Abraham had just arrived in the Promised Land along with his nephew Lot. And it didn't take long for their flocks and herds to flourish so that there wasn't enough pasture land for both of them. So Abraham and Lot went up a mountain, and looking out over all the land, Abraham gave Lot the choice of the land he wanted for his own, and Lot chose the fertile valley, leaving Abraham the green hill country. Abraham went there and pitched his tent under 2 oak trees at a place called Mamre, which are at Hebron. And there he built an altar to God and worshiped God there. This also is more important than it seems. Hebron becomes Abraham's home base in the land God promised him. More, this becomes the burial site of the patriarchs. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Joseph are all buried there. Still, there is more. Later on, when David becomes king, the first place he locates his headquarters is at Hebron. What better place than the home of Abraham and the others? Eventually, it was decided that Jerusalem was the better place, but the first place used for the seat of Israel's government was at Hebron. The real significance of all this is that Hebron represents God's long-term generational faithfulness. At Hebron, we see God's faithfulness across generations, all the way from Abraham to David and beyond. We see Abraham, who had been promised this land, buying a burial place, not a kingdom, just as our own burial places and plots are our doorway into God's kingdom. We see the great men and women of the Old Testament buried there, waiting for their ultimate resurrection, as we do. We see David waiting there for God's time to be fulfilled, to be king, like we wait for God's time and purpose for us to be revealed and fulfilled. More than that, Hebron stands as a symbol of the church today. The church is a community gathered around promise. The church is a place where the dead rest in hope. Church is a place where God raises up leaders for mission and ministry in the world. There are many denominations of Christians who emphasize a conversion experience, but Hebron offers encouragement to those of us who live lives of steady faith and growth. Hebron represented God's faithfulness throughout the generations, a, a slow, steady covenant of faithfulness and trust. And there's a benefit to that too. I mentioned that Hebron was in the hill country, and we can't overlook what that means either. Hebron's elevation symbolizes stability, permanence, and covenant community. Maybe we should remember Psalm 121, which asks, I lift my eyes to the hills. From where is my help to come? My help comes from the Lord who made heaven and earth. Maybe the hills around Hebron are the ones the psalmist had in mind. Hebron in the hills reminds us that God is our help. God is faithful always, steady, strong, and sure. Thanks for sharing these moments with me, and remember to let this day belong to God.